Despite the price of Bitcoin dipping to $65,000, the whales have just bought another 20,000 Bitcoin. Yes, that is $1.2 billion worth of Bitcoin this month alone. If I want to show you guys the chart, here it is. This is the chart that was on the thumbnail of today's video. So today we're going to be looking at why we are seeing this absolutely parabolic spike in the amount of inflows into the accumulation addresses. But we're not going to stop there. We're also going to show you the other side of the story, because a good friend of mine and a great analyst in the Bitcoin space is claiming that this data is incorrect. Okay, so we are going to be looking at why I could be wrong, why this chart could be wrong. I didn't necessarily make the chart, but we're going to be looking at both sides of the story today. So let's go straight to the source where I found this chart from. So as we can see, this chart has gone absolutely parabolic since 2020. Now, I found this chart over here in this website here. Again, we can see by the headline, Bitcoin whales make a quote unquote risky $1.3 billion bet as Bitcoin tumbles. So again, these whales are buying Bitcoin as the price of Bitcoin is tumbling. Whales have accumulated $1 billion in Bitcoin. Very, very, very interesting time. So here's the chart that you guys saw on the thumbnail of today's video. We can see that we're seeing an absolutely parabolic increase in the inflows into an accumulation address. Okay, so let's actually first explain what is an accumulation address. What does this mean? Okay, an accumulation address is an address found in a Bitcoin wallet that has a bigger history of buying Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin than it does selling Bitcoin. Okay, so we've gone through this before on the channel, but if an address or if a wallet accumulates or holds the Bitcoin with more than like 75% of the addresses in its wallet, it is going to be classified as a long-term holder if it does this for more than 155 days. Okay, I hope that made sense. I hope I didn't butcher that. But essentially, like you could still be classified as a long-term holder, even if you're selling a little bit of a tiny amount of Bitcoin. Okay, but as long as more than 75% of the addresses in your wallet are actually hodling addresses and you're not selling from those addresses, you'll be classified as a long-term holder and you'll be classified as an accumulation address. Okay, again, I hope that's right. Could be wrong. Not an expert in this realm. Just trying to bring you guys the data. Okay, so this is interesting. Now, this chart is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, because it started going parabolic in 2020. Okay, we can see here that it was very, very low for a long amount of time before 2020. We are going to be talking about why I think this happened and why a renowned and very smart analyst in the space also believes that this happened in 2020 in a second. But I want to go back to the source. I want to go back to this article and have a little bit of a read, because we can see something else is going on. Bitcoin on exchanges is also declining even further. Okay, now I disagree with the data set that they have. Again, we always talk about the fact that there's lots of different data sets tracking the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges. Their data set says, however, as of the time of writing, the supply on exchanges had dropped to around 939,000 Bitcoin, according to Sentiment. Okay, so again, this is a lot lower number than the one we normally talk about. We normally reference Glassnode. Glassnode and CryptoQuant show that there's somewhere around 2 million to 2.5 million. Okay, so again, just remember that lots of people actually cite different numbers of Bitcoin on exchanges, and that's because they all look at different exchanges, so it can get confusing. What's important is the trend. The trend is down, and this website shows the exact same thing. Okay, we can see that since the 10th of June, the supply on exchanges has dropped by about 5,000 Bitcoin. So that's in a week. Okay, 5,000 Bitcoin ripped off the exchanges in a week. And this comes at the same time that we supposedly see whales and accumulation addresses increase by 20,000. Very, 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 very interesting. We're not going to talk about the short-term price prediction and the technical analysis and the what I like to call astrology for men charts that they do have here. But it's an interesting article. I think it's interesting data. Very, very interesting to see what's happening. Something else that I find interesting, again, is the options markets. Well, not the options markets, sorry, the spot Bitcoin markets. We can see by these dark yellow and darker lines underneath the price of Bitcoin, they are representing some pretty big bids. Okay, so Seth puts it simply, Bitcoin whales are trying to fill more bids. So he says that because the price keeps going down and there's lots of darker colors underneath the price of Bitcoin. That's as technical as we're going to get. I know the spot markets can get a little bit confusing. So who are these whales? Why are we seeing all of these crazy whales enter the Bitcoin space? Okay, well, I think one of the most interesting whales in the Bitcoin space is, of course, Michael Saylor. Now, I want to talk a lot about Michael Saylor because I think he's had a hell of a week. He's had a very, very big week. And I want to play you guys a video. In case you guys missed the live stream yesterday on the bitcoinnews.com video, I played this video. But again, this came from his, let's call it what it is, a groundbreaking speech that he gave at BTC Prague this week. So let's play this speech and talk about why Michael is inspiring a new wave of Bitcoin whales who are ripping Bitcoin off the exchanges.
People, all your models will be destroyed. Your political models, everything we learned over 10,000 years. When you're looking backwards, all these people, they want to look at time series of historic stuff. All I see is a bunch of statisticians analyzing people with chariots and bows and arrows and camels and elephants fighting in wars 3,000 years ago, and we show up with explosives and aircraft, and they're trying to back test their models and figure out how explosives and aircraft impact the way they organize their elephants. It's like all the models, they don't really make any sense anymore. If you understand Bitcoin, you realize you got to throw them all away. When Godzilla walks onto the playground, all your models are worthless. They're all going to be destroyed.
All your models are going to be destroyed. Now, we're not going to name any names, but we do know that I notice that lots of people who think these models are gospel, I should say, and think these models shouldn't be questioned because they are math, science, and physics. They weren't very impressed with that video. That's all I'm going to say on that topic. But I think it's very, very interesting that Michael Saylor thinks that all your models are still going to be destroyed. Even models like the Bitcoin power law that say we're going to be at $1 million Bitcoin in 2033, lots of people look at that and they say, oh, that's a bullish model. Why are you questioning that, Luke? A lot of people always ask me that because I am one of the more bullish Bitcoiners. But I think it's very, very interesting that even Michael Saylor thinks that that one is a little bit of a bearish model. We're going to get back into Michael Saylor in a minute. I want to check on the live chat. We got 234 people in here. McLovin says, anyone stacking on the dippity dip, Bitcoin won't be on sale forever. Could not agree more, McLovin. It's hilarious, the sentiment right now. I want to pull up a chart and show you guys where we are right now because I find it fascinating, absolutely fascinating that everybody's selling Bitcoin. And this is the chart of Bitcoin. Have a look at this. This is we'll call that a 10-year chart of Bitcoin. This goes back to 2015. Where's the dip? Where's the crash? Where's the depression on the chart here? I don't see it. Like everybody's absolutely hysterical. And maybe that's because they're looking at 4-hourly charts, okay? Bitcoin's at 64,864. It's the first time Bitcoin's been under 65,000 since the 15th of May, 1 month ago. I mean, guys, I'd encourage you guys to zoom out a little bit. Bitcoin is still just doing its thing. It still looks like it's just consolidating between 60 and 73K. It's not doing a whole lot. Okay, it's really not doing a whole lot. I want to make that chart bigger. Sorry, I don't want you guys to be forced looking at my big ugly mug on the full screen if you don't have to. Good morning, Johnny Midas. Oh, we got Elaine in the chat. Good to see you again. Hope you're great, Elaine. Pam says hello as well. I'm sure she does. She might even come on camera. She's she's looking orange today. She's looking orange. She's looking very Bitcoinish. Ethan, why do these whales reuse addresses? Honestly, don't know the answer to that question, Ethan. I'm sorry, my friend. Why do these whales? Alton's in the chat. Apparently, Dan has a BTC bumper sticker helping get the word out. That's incredible. Maybe Dan's pumping the price of Bitcoin up. Maybe that's why Bitcoin's in the $60,000, up 5x higher than it was only 12 months ago. We got James in the chat as well. James is obviously the co-founder of Stampseed, one of the best Bitcoin steel products in the space. Highly recommend you check out what they're doing. I had the pleasure of meeting James in Prague, and as James says, Saylor in Prague hits again. There's so many videos of Saylor in Prague that we are going to be talking about today, guys, because I got another live stream scheduled for 6 minutes time. That's really not too far away. So better get motoring. I want to show you guys a couple more very interesting charts about Michael Saylor because today's a very special day because Michael Saylor's speech at Prague was actually released on Twitter about 2 hours ago. Okay, so everybody's been talking about Michael Saylor's speech on Twitter. Let's get away from the astrology for men and the charts that I have up on screen for you guys. I cringe even looking at 12 months charts. I think we should, the correct way to be looking at Bitcoin is zooming all the way out. And when you do, look at the chart of Bitcoin or even MicroStrategy, one of the whales that we are talking about today who has driven Bitcoin's price up a lot over the past 4.5 years from $3,000 to $65,000 at the time of recording. We can see what has happened to their stock price. MicroStrategy stock price up 1,157% in the past 4 years alone. Okay, this is one of the whales who have been aggressively accumulating Bitcoin over the past 5 years. Now, I mentioned it, I teased it. I wanted to play this video. Okay, this is a little snippet from Michael Saylor's speech at BTC Prague that was released literally 2 hours ago. And Michael Saylor essentially made a video saying that he has 21 rules for Bitcoin. And I think that's a really funny video. I'd highly encourage you to check it out. But I want to play his first rule for Bitcoin for you guys because I think it's a really interesting one to kind of talk about. The noisier the social media landscape is getting, I think that Michael Saylor's first rule for Bitcoin becomes even more important. So let's listen to it.
You'll have those who understand Bitcoin buy Bitcoin, and those that don't criticize Bitcoin. And you can see in a paradigm shift, it's just so profound. There'll be people that'll talk about it, and as long as you're talking about it, it's not clear you understand it. At the point that things click for you, you're not just going to talk about it, you're not going to criticize it, you're going to run, not walk, to the nearest place where you can buy Bitcoin. And for me, it was very clear when it clicked, I had to buy it. And on the other hand, the world's full of people that criticize it. They criticize it because they have not yet grasped the paradigm shift. And if it hasn't clicked for you, you'll have 10,000 criticisms. Those who understand Bitcoin.
So I think that's a really, really interesting point there by Saylor. And again, I'd encourage you guys to watch the whole speech because he was a little bit spicy in that speech. He really, like a few times I was listening to Saylor and he really kind of made a point that made me drop my jaw a little bit. I was like, oh, wow, he said that. He was on fire in that speech in BTC Prague. And I think he makes a really, really, really great point. That's only going to become even more important over the next 5 to 10 years, okay? As we have, all of this noise in the social media space and the mainstream media space, I think people are going to become louder and louder. The Bitcoin critics are going to become louder and louder. And I think the Bitcoin advocates or propagandists like ourselves are also going to become louder and louder, okay, again. But I think Michael Saylor makes a great point. Those who don't understand Bitcoin are going to very loudly criticize Bitcoin, okay? But when you do understand Bitcoin, you're going to run, not walk, and go and buy Bitcoin as quickly as you possibly can. I think that's a really interesting nugget I pulled out of that interview for you guys. Now, something else that I'm going to talk about in about 5 minutes over on the bitcoinnews.com YouTube channel is MicroStrategy's 7-step flywheel effect. I'm going to try to make this as big as possible for you guys. I found this really cool image on Twitter. Now, again, if I would love to give the person credit who actually made the image. I didn't make this original image. I stole it from Twitter, and I went back through my old tabs to try to give credit where credit's due, and I couldn't find them. So if you know who made the image, please tag them on the tweet that I made. I'd love to give them credit, but it's really, really interesting. It's talking about MicroStrategy's reflexive flywheel effect, okay? Now, I think this is fascinating. I think this is even more interesting when we think about MicroStrategy's flywheel effect in the broader context of what has actually transpired over the past 3 months when it comes to corporate adoption of Bitcoin, okay? We got a Canadian publicly traded company called DeFi Technologies who's gone all in on Bitcoin. They bought $7 million worth of Bitcoin. We've got a Japanese software company, Metaplanet, not only buying $10 million worth of Bitcoin, okay, but they've continued buying more each month since they adopted this Bitcoin strategy. And they've even publicly announced their intentions to tap the corporate debt markets to borrow fiat and buy Bitcoin, okay? So again, massive, huge news. Something else that I found absolutely huge was the fact that we had a $223 million market cap company, Saylor Scientific, a little bit of an interesting name there, actually come out recently and also buy $40 million worth of Bitcoin. And they actually came out and announced that they're going to be issuing $150 million of their own stock to buy Bitcoin. Okay, now this is big. A lot of people say, oh, don't look at that Canadian company. They call themselves DeFi Technologies. Don't worry about that little Japanese company, Metaplanet. They're tiny. They've only got $10 million worth of Bitcoin. It doesn't matter if they tap the public debt markets to borrow fiat and buy Bitcoin. But it's a little bit harder to dismiss a company with a $223 million market cap like Saylor Scientific, okay? So I believe that all of these companies are slowly beginning to adopt Michael Saylor's 7-step flywheel effect strategy, okay? Now, that is what I'm going to be talking about over on the bitcoinnews.com YouTube channel. So again, guys, I'm going to leave this live stream here. If you want to learn a little bit more about Michael Saylor and this 7-step process, come on over to the bitcoinnews.com live stream channel. We're going to go live in about 5 minutes. I might have a little bit of a drink, a little bit of a stretch, and we're going to talk a little bit more about why Bitcoin is the Godzilla that will break all of your models. Okay, so guys, thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. Lots of familiar faces in the chat and some old ones. Amazing to see you all. And with all that said, guys, I'm going to leave this one here. I'll see you over on the Bitcoin News channel. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and I will